Hello. Welcome to chapter 55. 55. I can't I'm not going to go there. Chapter 55 of World's Longest Suicide Note. My name is Roger. I am, for all intents and purposes, the suicidal person. But I am not a mental health provider, practitioner, professional. I ran out of P words. Yeah, that's it. I've exhausted my P vocabulary. My P. Stop. Okay, so got that out of the way. I'm gonna hang up my hat. Been that kind of day. So so I got rid of the other painting. Moving on. Like I said, I got bored with it. I'm doing this one. This one's going to be a giveaway for an event that I'm doing for nonprofits. There's a thing called the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. It happens every year around the world. A lot of people jump on motorcycles, put some fancy clothes on, and ride around town. And they raise money for a couple things. One of them is men's suicide prevention initiatives. For some reason, guys don't like to talk about things like mental health and feelings, kind of thing. So, that being said, what we're going to, I support anything that has to do with severe mental illness, suicide, and just talking about feelings and stuff. So, next weekend I am sponsoring the after party, so to speak, of the ride. I don't ride. I'm not a rider. I think it's just safer for society as a whole if I don't have a motorcycle endorsement. So I'm doing it for you. I'm doing it for the world, to make the world a better place. What do? I don't ride motorcycles. That's the sum of my give back to society. Yeah. So you'll never see a video of me crashing through a fence, popping a wheelie. I mean, that'd be kind of cool to see, but all right, let's move on. That's what's happening here. New painting, new thing. Hopefully raise $1.50 or $2, something for the cause. All right, what are we going to talk about today? A couple chapters ago, I talked about the books I'm reading or have read. I'm not reading them all. I've already read them. But since I've read, once you read a book, you got to restart another book. And so that's what I've done. So I'm reading a book about self-loathing right now. Because self-loathing is a thing for me that I struggle with. And I know I'm not alone in that. It's pretty common for folks that deal with mental illness to be their own worst enemy and to think of themselves far differently than other people do, or that's the whole idea. Is in self-loathing we hold ourselves to a standard that we hold no one else to, and we just and it's repeated over and over and over again ad infinitum. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that because I've been reading about it. And I've made a lot of gains in the loving yourself category, and because that you have to see the worth in you to really do the work, or to allow that work to be fully integrated within you. You have you have to see yourself as worthy of that, and that's a hard thing. And even with I've been working a lot at it, it's still something that's a hard thing because I'm constantly trying to convince myself that I am a decent person and deserving of happiness, the American dream, a pony, whatever. I really wanted one of those small horses, that are like the size of a dog. They're like mini horses, but they like clip clop around your house, like clip clop, clip clop, clip clop. Anyway, so I am worthy of a small horse to walk around my house. I mean, my wife said no. And I get it. I mean, they kind of just poop everywhere. But God, it's so cool to have a horse walking around your house. Okay. So, in my reading, I came across kind of an exercise, because a lot of what's in our head doesn't really have a lot of basis. It's there, but does it need to be there? Is it validated? Is it something that we have to have there? And so let's dive in a little bit to what I wanted to initially talk about. And part of it was, we feel like those of us who do self-loathe, that it's deserved, and it's because of all this bad stuff we've done and we've trained. At the end of the day, a lot of those negative thoughts are just there. Just because they've always been there doesn't mean that they always have to be there, right? And so one of the exercises was think about a table. All right? So you have a picture of a table in your head. Thinking about a table. And obviously, you when someone says think of a table, you could easily picture a table. Now, describe that table. Does it have, and that's the thing with tables is there's not really one kind of table. There's not really one shape of table. There's multiple kinds and shapes and varieties. It could have four legs. It can have, it can be square, round, rectangle, oblong. Is that the only shapes I know? Triangle. Did I say triangle? Pentagon, decagon, hexagon. Anyway, it could be anything. Table could be, it could have the epoxy with the ocean, where they spray, like take a hairdryer and anyway, lots of different configurations. So when you start describing that, and it's in the describing it that you start to attach these feelings, and you start to, that's the table that I sat at when I was a kid growing up, or that's the table I have in my dining room right now, or we always had this thing in our head of what the table looked like. And the important thing to understand here is that no matter how you describe it, it's going to be a table, but you have different emotional connections to that table because that's the one you thought of. But it's the same thing with your own self-hatred. Describe that. Do you know what that is? Now, what is your self-hatred about? Okay, you know what self-hatred, self-loathing is. Now explain it to me. A lot of the things that you're going to explain to me about the characteristics of your personal self-hatred, self-loathing, while it was something that happened, it may be something that happened when you were a child, or somebody said something about the way you did something early in life, or made you feel a certain way about how about what you did or who you are, and all this stuff, that we love to keep track of, because that's, we can come up with all the reasons why we're horrible people. But if we really sat down and described each thing, each attribute of our self-loathing, we would also understand that these are things that have happened a long time ago that we never processed, or we never forgave ourselves. And we held on to it because this is my proof that I'm a horrible person and deserve to feel the way that I do. And that was an interesting, because those things that I hold, like, I'm a horrible person because of this. This is why I think I'm bad or wrong or evil or whatever it is. And I can explain those to you. The problem is I can't really express like why that they're still there. Those things happened years ago, sometimes a lifetime ago, like when, and I'm holding myself accountable to that. I'm not moving on. And these are the reasons why I feel the way that I feel about myself. But the more I dive into that, the more I realize that all this stuff happened a long time ago. I'm not saying that I don't make mistakes now. I'm not saying that in some way, ever since that time, there's nothing. But the things that have happened since then, aren't bad. They're not the reason why I have this self-loathing. So understanding that things change, and the if we're holding ourselves to these are the things that are holding us back. Well, shoot, that happened when I was 7, that happened when I was 18, that happened when I was 22, or whatever. These are the reasons. At what point would you determine that that's all in the past, and that shouldn't have a bearing on how you feel about yourself today? Meaning that you can, even if it was a horrible thing, what about the things that you've done since then? The good things, that don't come into that. So we have a vision of our self-loathing, of what that means for us. And then when we go to describe it, we have to justify. That's what justifies that thought, those thoughts. What we see is those thoughts have just been there. They're just stagnant thoughts that we've felt for a long time, and they've just become the default. They are our default setting as far as how we feel about ourselves. So we need to be, I think, what that tells me is that we need to justify that self-loathing. We need to make sure that it's up to date and it's valid. Meaning, like, okay, I was still in elementary school or junior high or high school. I think I can get rid of that one. That doesn't really seem to be an issue. Stealing the candy from other kids' lunches, while it's not great, it's not a great thing to put on a resume, it shouldn't, send you directly to hell for the rest of eternity because you stole some M&Ms They were peanut M&Ms, but you stole them from another child and you ate them. You know, at the time, yeah, that was kind of a dick thing to do. But in the scope of things, is that really something that we should be thinking about or talking about or focusing on as we determine who we are moving forward? I would say you can probably let that one go. But that would lead to the next situation, which is, well, what's the next one? Do we need to... The whole idea of it is to understand that we see ourselves in a certain way. And that becomes who we feel we are. So it should be valid. I mean, we need to make sure that that in and of itself is something that we are keeping up to speed on, up to date, and keeping track of making sure that it's up to date and current. So if we are currently a bad person and we're doing bad things and we feel bad about what we're doing, well, then that's going to, but at least it would be a current representation of who we are, instead of something that was started at our first thoughts and feelings and we've kept with us. And these are the reasons why we deserve zero happiness in our lives. They're all old, they're all outdated, but this is the concept that we're carrying with us on a day-to-day basis. So I challenge you to explain where you're at. I mean, to understand what your level of self-loathing, self-hatred is, and then explain that to yourself. What makes me say these things? What makes me feel this way? And is it justified based on the evidence? I think that you'll find, like I did, that, you know, I think we could stand to cut ourselves some slack on the things that happened earlier in our lives. And then that also colors who we are now and how we should feel about ourselves now. So anyway, that's about it for that. But it's these things are important, because what happens is, if we don't feel like we're worth it, that we're, you know, that there's hope for us, if we don't feel these things, it's going to make those dark times even darker, because we won't see like the real benefit of like moving forward and trying to get ourselves into a better place in time mentally. So anyway, I encourage you to really dive into that and feel better about yourself, because it's important. You're important, and you matter. So keep fighting, and we'll see you in the next chapter, number 56. Take care.